counsellor today.
Hello, Shani.
So out in the waiting room when you were filling out all the forms, there was a confidentiality form. I just wanted to go over that with you to make sure that you understood it. Is that all right?
Yep.
So everything you do say in here is confidential. The only times I'll ever take anything you say outside of the room is if I feel like you're going to harm yourself, significant harm to yourself, if I think that you're going to harm somebody else, or if by any chance my notes about our sessions get subpoenaed and taken to court, then I have no choice but to hand my notes over, and so they will be taken out.
Yep.
So they're the only 3 times anything gets taken out of the room. Besides that, everything you're saying here just stays between you and I.
Yep.
So do you understand all that?
Yep.
And
That's fine.
that's all right. Excellent. Yep. And today, with our counselling session, I'm going to focus with you on doing narrative therapy.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, Chris, so tell me why you're here.
I'm having a real issue getting in an aeroplane and flying. Well, I'm not in control of the plane, but yeah, I find it hard to travel in a plane.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know, I'm hoping to try and sort of fix that. I just feel like it's a silly fear because I'm not, I sort of have trust in the plane, but I just can't help panicking about the plane crashing, and I don't know, I just don't like the feel of going up and down the turbulence,
Yep.
or when the plane turns and I feel like it's going to flip right over. And then if it's turbulence while turning, it's a nightmare. I don't like it at all.
Yep.
Yeah. Last time I went on a plane, I was gripping the seat so tight I thought I was going to snap the armrests off. Like, yeah, I'm really not enjoying being on a plane, and I need to actually use a plane quite frequently to visit family. Yeah, so yeah, I'm really here just to sort of try and maybe get to the issue, or if there is an issue, or is it normal, I don't know.
Well, there's definitely a lot of people who are afraid of flying, so I would say it is a fairly common fear to be afraid of flying. You said before that you want to try and fix the problem, so while we're in here we can discuss different strategies and figure out possibly why it is that you're afraid.
Yep.
So when you said fix, were you not afraid of flying at any point?
I have, yeah. When I was younger, from another country, I used to go back and visit, and I had no problems. Maybe I was just naive, younger, and not paying attention to what could happen. But as I've got older, I don't know. It's sort of just happened, and now I can't shake it. And I want to get back to that point where I could sit in a plane and it was fine. I just get from point A to point B without feeling anxious, or start gripping the chair every time there's turbulence or a slight turn. Or
so you want to get back to the point of the way you were when you were a child?
Yeah, I just want to feel that safety in a plane. Yeah.
And I can definitely understand that, wanting to feel safe.
Yep. Yeah.
So you were okay as a child at flying, and now as an adult you find it difficult, and you grip the handles so hard you feel like you're going to rip them off. So you're quite worried about flying. So is there a point in between where anything has happened that's made you...
There's been a couple of incidents where I've been in a plane and it's probably heightened it, but the nerves were already building anyway. But there was one instance where in a plane you've got a camera that looks like, so you have the TV monitors on the back of the chair in front of you, and there's cameras that monitor that show you under the plane and in front of the plane. So I thought it'd be fun to see the ground as we were landing. And when I did that, the plane went like it sort of turned twice. Like just before it landed, I saw the white line we're supposed to be following disappear at the screen and shoot back across to the other side. And seeing that and also feeling the movement, I thought that we were going to crash. And it made me extremely nervous. And then I've been on a plane a couple more times since then, and it started to die down a bit, that anxiety, I guess. And then a few years later, I was on a plane, I've probably seen some of those air crash investigation things that made me probably put ideas in my head, but the plane during turbulence actually dropped quite a long way, like enough for most of the people in the cabin to gasp or make that big sort of noise. And I watched a documentary recently of planes flying over the sort of Indonesia area where there's volcanoes, and the particles from an eruption are that fine that you can't really see them if the plane's flying through, but they affect the engine and stop the engine, and then the plane just stops and drops.
Okay, yep.
And that went through my head in that brief period, and yeah, I don't feel like that's going to happen all the time. But both those instances were in big jumbo jets, and I feel safer in them. It's the smaller planes that are actually got me worried.
Okay.
But they're the two instances that actually make me worried.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know.
So if we just spoke about your story that you've got, so you were okay as a child and you flew a lot because you have family overseas.
Mm-hmm.
So you flew a lot as a child and you were fine. And then as your story went on, you started to become a bit nervous, and you've had the first incident where the line went away and then shot back.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said that's made you nervous. And then you've had another incident and watching television and things like that where you've dropped
Mm-hmm.
that's made you nervous. And so now you can see that you've gone from being fine on a plane to being quite nervous about, to the point where you're almost going to pull those handles off.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're at that point now, would you say, or do you think your story's moved on from there?
I don't know. I've been on quite a number of smaller planes around Australia that and everyone's been, there's been no incidents. There was one time coming into Sydney where it was stormy, it was turbulence, it was bumping up and down, I could see the storm that side, and then as it's moving around because of the storm, we started doing that turn I don't like, and it was shaking the whole way in, and I just felt really uncomfortable. But, we landed all the same. It was like, every time I've been on a plane, it's been, I guess, safe, and that sort of thing. We get from A to B. As soon as I get off, I think, well, that wasn't even that bad. I know what I was worried about. But during the actual flight, and then sit and wait to take off, is when I get the most anxious.
Okay.
But when we're actually in the air, I'm not too phased, and taking off's not too bad. I do get a little bit nervous because I don't like the plane bumping around before it takes off, but it's when it's the landing that really gets me. Yeah. Even if it's a smooth flight and it's smooth all the way down, I'm very anxious about the landing.
So what I can see in your story is that you've gone from being fine to having an incident where, as you're landing, you've seen this, what do they call it?
The lines of the tarmac,
shoot out and in, and you've felt that too, so it's a visual thing that you're seeing and you're actually feeling what was going on while you're landing. So now, as a result of that, in your story, you're getting really anxious when you're landing, regardless of if it's smooth or not. You're just landing, you're having trouble with altogether.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's right.
And so you're having trouble, you said, when you're just sitting at the start, sitting on the plane?
Yeah, waiting for it, because I feel as though I'm going to get nervous again. I don't know, I have a lot of those sort of little mental battles in my head telling myself it's going to be okay, and then it starts and I start feeling nervous, and then I start, no, you've just been silly, and then I'll be almost arguing with myself, saying, you're being silly, and no, I'm not, I'm shitting yourself, sort of thing, and we got no reason to be, and yeah, it'd probably be pretty funny to watch. I don't know what sort of faces I'm pulling when I'm in the plane, but yeah. So I just...
So can you tell me about some strategies that you've used, or any strategies that you have since those incidents that help you get through a plane ride? Because you say that you've been on a fair few since, like, you're not scared enough not to get on a plane, so that's a big accomplishment.
I think Taken off, I prefer to be on the window.
Mhm.
So I always try and get onto the window side, taken off, because I don't mind looking out and watching as we're going. I'm not,
Mhm.
you know, I'm not sort of worried about fork crashing, I guess, or anything bad happening taken off. I just don't like the feeling, but I don't think that's too bad. But I like actually looking out the window and seeing the cities and all that made up before and over in the sky, and I don't even really, that fear's not there yet.
Mhm.
It's just that sort of waiting for it.
Mhm.
And the other one I've been doing lately is I always have a book. So if I try and read,
And
which
is that?
it can, depends on the book if I'm into it. And I managed to get right into it, landing's not so bad. But there's always that, we get to drop quite a fair bit before I start having that panicky feeling.
Mhm.
But if I'm not, into the book, I'll end up closing it as we're, as the captain says we're starting to descend or whatever. I can't get into it, it's not working, I'll close the book. So sometimes it doesn't work.
Mhm. So you've got a strategy that sometimes does work depending on the book.
Yep.
And so what you're saying is that in terms of when you're taking off, you enjoy looking out the window,
Mm-hmm.
whereas when you're landing, you don't.
No, I can still do it, but it doesn't ease anything.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because when you're landing, generally when we land, you always have to seem to, I don't know why we don't, you just have to swing all the way out and come back in.
Mm-hmm.
So for the majority of the landing too, not only dropping, but we're like that,
Mm-hmm.
going in, and so I feel like my head's hanging out the window, I'm hanging out the window a little, if the wind moves the wing a bit, like that, I feel like, oh geez, we're about to go flip over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, the landing, I'd rather, if we're not allowed to close the shutters either when you're landing, they have to be open, which I think is ridiculous, because if that was shut, it'd be fine.
Okay, so I'm just thinking, what made you really scared in the first place was actually being able to see what was going on, yet now being able, when you first take off, being able to see outside actually helps.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been a bit of a shift there.
Yeah, but it's taken, I think it's the landing part that really gets me. I don't want to watch that. See, I like looking and seeing it, I'm not, even though I am a little bit scared of heights, I'm not that afraid to look out the window. I like actually seeing it all.
Mm-hmm.
It's just landing and feel like I'm actually tipped over looking at it and feeling all the bumps. It just doesn't feel safe. I don't feel in control.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's been definitely flights that you've been on and you've been able to get through.
Yeah, there's been a few flights where when I'm reading a book, that seems to be the one, or if I'm in a spot where I can't see out the window. And I can't help but look out the window either. I try not to. I try and focus straight ahead, but I don't know, I just always seem to look out.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
That's alright. So, I'm just thinking that you've started off being okay with flying, and then you've got this really big fear of turning.
Yep.
And of landing, and possibly when there's turbulence in between all that.
Yeah.
But now you're still able to get on
I
flights.
can still do it, but I'm not at the point where I'm refusing to fly.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, if it's a really bad, like that time, the Sydney time where it was stormy, and the plane was about to turn,
Mm-hmm.
I got off swearing, the captain, to myself, but blaming the captain, and I was thinking I'll never go on a plane again. I won't fly with Rex now.
Okay.
Yeah, airlines, I can't do it. So, on that one experience, that's throwing him out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it was that bumpy, and I don't even know it was his fault. We're going through a storm, but I can't do it now. I can't go back to that actual airline. So I'm wondering if there's any other bad experience. I end up going to close all the airlines off.
Yeah.
For
one at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am from overseas, so there's going to be times where I want to go back and visit my relatives, and I don't want my silly little phobia to stop. Because the bigger pictures, I want to see my family, but if I can't, I don't want my fear to get in the way of that.
Mm-hmm. So you've gone from having one bad experience where you haven't been able to see, when you've been able to see what's going on underneath you, and being, what you said, being afraid of landing, to another experience which has made you blame, would you say?
The captain.
The captain?
Yeah, but I know it's not his fault, but I needed to blame someone.
But in your fear...
Yeah, because I couldn't control it, I guess, and he's the guy in control, I blamed him.
Yeah. So you've wanted him to control the plane better for you?
Yeah.
Okay. So we might be looking at some issues of being able to let someone else have control. How do you go when you're driving?
I prefer to be the driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, but most of the time it's... Yeah, I don't feel... When I'm driving, I need to be in control. I feel safer. I don't kick up a stink or anything. I'll be a passenger. A lot of the time I prefer to just be the driver because it's not as boring. I just need something to do, sitting still. For a long distance example, I can't sit still for that long.
So you've been talking about driving, we can see some similarities that, well, you don't like to sit still when on a plane.
Yeah.
What you have to do most of the time is sit still, isn't it?
But I guess in a car you can stop.
That's right. And especially on a plane where you're coming through those, when you've had these experiences in your past and you're coming through and doing these, going down. I know when I'm on a plane, when you're going down, you're not allowed to have your music or any of that, and you've got to put everything back upright, so you're really being forced to do nothing. And similar to a car, you don't like being bored or not doing anything, that's why you like driving.
Yep.
And also similar to the car, you like having, even though in a car it's not that bad, you can let someone else drive, you would rather have control because you said you feel safer.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I always feel my judgment's better. Even if whoever's driving's a good driver, I always feel as though I'm seeing things before they are.
So possibly in a plane your judgment would be better.
Not really, because I don't know how to fly.
Yep.
So the captain's judgment's better, because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do any of that.
But you're still afraid of not having that control.
Yeah, I think it's because the control's completely stripped.
Yeah.
And we have absolutely nothing, and then I guess there's more and more controls taken away by just the simple things. You can't, I'm restricted to the seat and I'm not allowed to do anything. And it's all my sort of a lot of things I feel as they would make my flying easier are taken away, I guess.
And what would they
just closing the blinds, or you're not allowed to use technology either. If I had like an iPad or could use the screen to watch a movie to land, that would be okay, because I can view something to take my mind off it, but it's all removed.
So you feel like all your control's been taken away.
Yep.
Yeah. So what's something that we can do, or something you think you could do to make you feel like you've got that little bit of, you've said that you like reading a book only if it's interesting and keeps your engagement.
Yep.
So that gives you that little bit of control, possibly to take your mind and your imagination away to somewhere else. That gives you a fair bit of control. Is there anything else you could think of that?
Maybe one thing I probably haven't tried, and I don't have one anymore, but have an iPod where I can listen to music. I do sort of just go into a fair day, a bit of a daydream when I'm listening to music. So that could be an option. So I'll probably have to get myself an iPod and see how that goes.
Do you think that would be something that...
Well, I used to have an iPod when I used to travel, or a Discman.
When you were young?
When I was younger, and that was fine.
Yep. So you can see when you're young and again, because you were young, you had different ideas about what control might have been. And when you're young, you've had your Discman, you've been able to have that little bit of control. Yep. That little bit to maybe take your mind off it, to stop you thinking, we're landing. And then you've had an experience where you felt not in control, and you can't do anything to stop this line going in and out of your sight. So we could go back to having some type of, not discipline these days, but some type of music machine to...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can
That's a
or
really good
even
idea.
get songs, maybe download songs to my phone, because I've got a phone going there, you can do that, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you've got your phone. What about in terms of, you keep saying that if you're not interested in a book that it doesn't work, is there...
Yeah, I guess it's probably preparing. I guess I don't, when I'm flying, I don't think about it until I'm at the airport. Like, I should have done that. And so I'm quickly looking through the books at the shops at the airport, trying to figure out which one's going to be a good one. Whereas, I've got plenty of books at home. I should just pick one and know I'm interested because I've already bought it and then take it with me. But I don't think that, like that, it doesn't cross my mind until I'm at the airport.
So do you have a partner at home?
Yes.
Someone who could kind of try and remind you to do some of these things, like get your iPod ready or get a book ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's two good ideas we've got already about ways that we can not necessarily stop the fear, because since you've had these, and they sound a few of them, bad experiences on planes where you just felt like there was nothing you could do to stop what was going on.
Yep.
Since we've already passed that point in your story, it's hard to go back, but we can put in place some certain things that make you feel better, so that when you get on a plane... Though what you're saying to me is that you've flown a fair few times since these events. So I think that's a pretty amazing thing, to be able to have this fear in you and yet still be able to push through it. Mm-hmm. So do you say things like when you're on a plane, and if you didn't have your book or your music, how do you usually get through when you're landing?
A lot of cursing. As I'm gripping, I normally close my eyes and sort of mumble. Just swear words and anything comes to mind. A lot of abuse towards...
cursing to make yourself feel...
A lot of abuse towards people in control. And, it normally makes my partner laugh as well, and I guess having that sort of cheer around me while we're going through it also sort of kind of brings me up, because I do, if I can hear her laughing, it ends up making me laughing, so I realise how ridiculous I'm being.
Okay, So you've already got a few things that, swearing under your breath is something that, or cursing the people who are in control it's not going to change anything, but it's making you feel better.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. We want to find things that are going to make you feel better and comfortable, so that you can go visit your family, and it's not going to be something that stops you from doing that. So you've already got in place, really, a lot of strategies you are using to be able to get on a plane already, and to be able to sit on a plane and know that you're going to have to go through this experience that you really don't like, but you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
How do you feel about flying at the moment?
I'm still able to get on a plane, but I'm more worried that I get to a point where I close that option off, and it's going to make things obviously a lot more difficult. And to stop flying means I won't see my family again, so I think, I want my relatives, and I don't know, I don't want it to happen.
So it's interesting, just going back to some things you said before, that you've had two bad experiences, the two first experiences where the line shot out and you dropped, were on really big planes, yet you haven't shut out going on big planes, yet you've had one bad experience on a Rex plane, was it? Yeah. And you now won't fly Rex, but you've already had these bad experiences on your big planes.
They're small planes, when there's movement and all that, it seems to be amplified, and I guess they're lighter, they get knocked around more, especially the wind and all that, they make you feel really unsafe.
Okay, but you felt unsafe on these big planes, but you continue to go on them, so that's...
Yeah, but they were big movements, I guess. Yeah. Whereas any other movement was small plane's face and the big plane doesn't seem to react the same, so I'm not noticing it.
Yeah. Which again is a good
Yeah.
thing. So you're noticing all these movements on a small plane, so you're having trouble getting on it, yet you're not feeling them on a big plane. So thinking of it like that, do you think that you would end up cutting out some of these really big planes?
Not at this stage, Vanessa. I'm just more worried that the fear sort of takes over. That's, yeah. I don't want that to happen. So I'll just feel, no, I don't like going on small planes. I've already sort of, one airline's out for me now, and I don't want to get to the point where I start burning all my bridges.
So you've had 2 bad experiences on a big plane. How many bad experiences would it take for you to not go on a big plane?
I don't know.
Yeah.
One that just scares me, one that scares me enough not to go on.
But you've been scared. Been scared, but they weren't enough.
No, so it feels like both time, whatever happened, I don't know what happened with that time, like we're landing, whether the gust of wind sort of, who knows, but the turbulence one, turbulence happened, there are things that actually sort of just feel like it happens and then all of a sudden it's smooth again. It's a quick moment, bang, it's smooth, whereas in the smaller ones, even when that moment's over, it's still a rickety, bumpy flight and I'm on edge the whole time.
So have you noticed on big planes that constant? You haven't?
No.
So I think that that's a really good thing to know that. I've had 2 really bad experiences and I'm still able to get on a big plane. You've had 1 bad experience. It's very different. You're very much separating your 2 planes and saying that you're a smaller plane, you've got all this, it's a constant, you can feel a lot more, so you don't want to go on them. But you've had 2 bad experiences on a big plane, but you keep getting on them.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great thing to know. You've got in your mind, I can still get on these big planes, even though I've had bad experiences. And if we keep working and putting in place these different things like getting your partner to help you organise a book, just have that not organised for you, but just to know, I need a book that you're interested in, and having your music to listen to, having your swearing under your breath at the pilot when things are not going too great. I think they're all going to be these things that possibly will help you not get to the point where you're going to say, I'm not going on a big plane. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I guess it's reassuring that I'm already sort of got a lot of things in place that are helping me. And I haven't really viewed it that way. I just thought that was just me being silly, and I thought that was how my fear was manifesting rather than that's how I'm coping with it. Yeah.
And to know that possibly it could be because you're afraid of not having control, then now that you're aware of that, we can continue our sessions and we can work on getting you used to letting go and not having control, and even that can possibly help. How does that sound?
Yeah, that's
Excellent. So we're just about to end our session now, so I just wanted to make sure that you're feeling okay and you're ready to go back out into the real world.
Yeah, I'm actually feeling a bit better. I feel a bit better knowing I've actually got coping strategies there. So I've actually thought that was my fear taken over rather than...
And it's very normal to have all these different strategies that people aren't aware of. And like I said before, flying is a very normal fear that people have. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Chris. And we'll go out and we'll make another appointment for next week. How does that sound?
Yeah, no, I'm